Tim Smith vocals, piano, keyboard, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, flute. Eric Polido, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, 12-string acoustic guitar, keyboards, backing vocals. Eric Nicholson, keyboards, piano, acoustic guitar, 12-string acoustic guitar, electric guitar. Paul Alexander, bass, double bass, electric guitar, keyboards, piano, bassoon. Lazy bastard couldn't learn to play an acoustic guitar. Um, Hey, everybody, peeps, and welcome to another episode of Beautiful. My name is John. His name's Andy. Well, we jumped all night on your trampoline. When you kissed the sky, made your sister scream. You ate our chips and drank our Coke. Then you showed me Mars through your telescope. More on that later, perhaps. But first, we have a song to listen to because it's Friday. Yes, it is. We have a special request from one of our wonderful viewers. So as always, we have the list that goes on and on like a never-ending toilet roll being chased by a small Labrador puppy. And on my list, we have plucked out this one. It's from a band we covered before, Midlake, and from an album we covered before. I know this, so young Andy will be acting. The song was suggested by Logan, 4x6 or 4x6, which is 24, or maybe it's a six-wheelered Logan. I don't know. But anyway, on the episode, Spanky Wilson, "Sunshine of Your Love," fantastic. Go check out that episode if you haven't seen it.
It is good.
It's really good. They have suggested the song "Young Bride." So that's what Andy will be listening to. So obviously you remember your experiences with Midlake before. You've reacted to one, and I've reacted to one as well.
Yeah, yeah, yep. And I enjoyed every bit of it. Did I hear you right as you were so eloquently introing? No, I was going to say I was about to give you your flowers, but yeah, sure. You were just droning on there. You said this is from the Van Occupanther album, right? The one that sang Behind You and the one that featured Roscoe, which I instantly fell in love with. Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, it's good to know that I'm getting a taste of something else from that album. I've already downloaded Roscoe. So if this goes over well, it might just be enough for me to just say, all right, rest of the album, you're coming home. I will digitally download.
I rather casually said that Roscoe was hands and feet and knees and toes above the rest of the songs on this album, and some people took umbrage to that, and probably quite rightly. I stand by that, but it's not like miles better than. I mean, all of the songs are of a very good standard. I think just Roscoe's that.
Yeah.
More. But they're all really good, and this will be a good indicator for you, I think.
Yeah, I'll be able to come back and let you know if I agree with that sentiment or not, or maybe to the extreme that you suggested. But yeah, I'm interested to go off and give this a listen. And I've loved everything I've heard from Midlake to obviously just those two songs, but to varying degrees. I mean, I love Roscoe. That was one of my favorite songs that we've done on the channel. So yeah, let me go off and give. This is called, what was it again?
Young Bride.
Young Bride. All right. I will steer clear of any comments there. I'll go off and give it a listen and come back and let you know what I think. So beautiful. The way that there is this sort of like kind of plucking and circular guitar that comes into focus from seemingly a distance, and you hear it, and as it's being realized, this like sad, melancholic violin strokes over the top of it with these beautiful notes that again just bring to mind some sort of woeful beauty. I loved the way that sounded. It was so there's just this sincerity to the sound that is really resonating with me. I don't know why. It's just so beautiful. So let's just start this over again and experience that one more time. It's quite the jaunty beat for a sad sound.
My young bride, why are your shoulders like that of a tired old woman? Like a tired old woman.
Nice bass.
My young bride, why are your fingers like that of the hedge in winter? Of the hedge in winter. Pollinate in winter.
Like it opens.
Snowshoes and hunters carry the goods in.
All this bass. I love the bass in the verse. It's so simple, but it really does carry its weight. And the weight of the song, given the sort of scant existence of instrumentation in the verse, right? It's really rhythmic. It's just kind of drums and bass. And I have to say this, I think I've said this in the Roscoe uh reaction video when these guys first really caught my eye and caught my ear, and that is this Tim Smith. His vocals are so perfectly catered for this style of like indie folk music. It just his words really resonate with me, and there's also this like natural he captures nature in his lyrics in such a way that really does paint a picture, and I wouldn't need this video to envision these kind of landscapes. He is really a storyteller in the way he writes and delivers his lyrics. Really, really enjoyable.
My young bride, why aren't you moving at all? Helps to make the day seem shorter. Helps to make the day seem shorter.
Again, I think I would be able to come to this conclusion without the video so perfectly painting the picture of what I think is happening here, but it sounds like this is a man who is lamenting the depression or the mental state of his seemingly younger lover, if the titles is to be believed. And that really the sadness of that violin that started it off, and the kind of sweet sound and that sincere sound of the music is perfect for this kind of subject matter that he's tackling here. Um, yeah, I'm loving this so far.
My young bride, why aren't you keeping with you all the ones who really love you? All the ones who really.
I'm sorry, but I'm catching in this can some almost like friction-y type sound, and I don't know if that's like some bow on string created friction or something, but I think I'm catching it just in this can right here. And I love that added element. This is something else that I noticed with them, that when they go to verse or chorus, they kind of add a little bit here and there, very tastefully, very subtly. But if you've got an ear to hear it, you notice that difference, and it makes everything a little less sameish than the previous version of it, whether it's the verse or the chorus. And that adds this element of newness and freshness to each portion of the song. And I admire that sort of technique.
love you. Always winter, snowshoes and hunters carry the goods in for you. Darkness and forest grant you the longest place made for forest.
It's over here. Love that sound. It's like fluttering.
Snowshoes and hunters carry the goods in for you. Darkness and forest grant you the longest place made for
The song was so hauntingly beautiful in its own sort of lugubrious way. And I've said this before with other songs in the past, and maybe this is just how I'm sort of programmed, but there's something really, really beautiful about the melancholy. At least I think so. And this song illustrated that in spades, the sort of dynamic between beauty and sorrow, and even the mechanisms that they use, like especially at the end there, where the violin are like giving these last gasp efforts, almost like you would imagine that the subject of the song would be in the throes of depression, and bringing it to a fade out is an interesting choice, and one that I think is very much intentional, and that carries more weight than just what it is on paper, right? Just a fade out. Like I don't know if that symbolizes the end of her depression or the end of her, which sometimes sadly depression can lead to. It does leave, I would think, the listener to interpret how they want. I don't know what the exact intent is there, but that is a really clever and again sad mechanism, but there is some genius there to it. There were parts where they're panning in certain sounds, very subtle, otherwise ancillary sounds in either speaker, whether it's that fluttering bit that I was catching in my right or the frictious violin bit that I was catching in my left. Um, it was just wonderfully produced and just an incredibly well written song, as simple as it was. Um, so much beauty in this, and there are this like the sound does give this like very nature forward kind of vibe. I know we saw images of snow and there are references to snowshoes, I think, at one point. But when that chorus hits, I can literally like imagine like an animal bounding through a snowdrift. The sound becomes full and it kind of like washes over you. Those excellently strummed guitar chords really add to the mix, especially when they're not present in the verse and then they hit you in the chorus. It's like just this kind of taking a deep breath and just letting the shift in sound kind of hit you and wash over you. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this. I don't think I liked it as much as Roscoe, but damn, it was pretty close. And it only really adds another reason to go check out this album as a whole. Now I've downloaded Roscoe and I listen to it quite regularly. But given the nature of this channel, when you find something new, there's always the chance that someone's going to want to offer you something else off that album or by that artist. So I try as best I can to curb my enthusiasm and not jump into the deep end with some of these bands. But I think I'm at the point now where 2 songs off of this album, and I'd really love to get deeper into it and see if there's some other really redeeming songs off it as well. I would imagine there would be. Yeah, really, really good stuff. Um, I did like it better than Feast of Carrion for sure. Though I did enjoy that song as well. I don't know that there's something more folksy about I think this album sound from what I've heard thus far. And that's really scratching an itch that I have. So, yeah, great suggestion. Really, really enjoyed it. Let's get back to John and see what he has to say about it.
Holy Toledo, he's back. So, what did you make of Young Bride by
Oh man.
Midlake?
I liked it. I liked it a
Hmm.
lot, actually. Things start off so beautifully and also so melancholic, which is probably a running theme for me and how I experience these sad songs, where I think they're so beautiful. But this is really, really pretty. It's this like simple, like kind of like circular plucking on the acoustic guitar that is distant and yet coming into frame and into focus and getting louder. And like over top of that, there is painted these like beautiful strokes of like this forlorn sounding violin. And that's just, it's stunning. I love the sound of that violin. And then from the back room comes
Can I,
this.
sorry, can I just, I'm going to say this, but I won't. I'll just want to make this observation now. It always struck me that first section. I know what you're going to say next about what's coming stomping through. But that first little sort of, I don't know, what is that, 15 seconds or
Yeah, I
whatever
was
it
gonna say
is.
50 or 20 seconds or something like that.
It really strikes me as if you just tweak it slightly, it's like Japanese folk music that has that melancholy
Okay.
to it. That
Yeah,
really similar. And again, it's instant, isn't it? That sort of melancholy's in there, and you feel, oh, something's been lost and wasted forever, and oh shit. And it's
yeah.
just straight. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No,
But
no,
yeah,
you're absolutely right. And I'll have to go back to listen because I like the sound of like that sort of like Japanese. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's great. Like I don't mean this as an insult, but it's wonderful background music to like to just doing something to just listen. It's very peaceful and tranquil sounding. But
Zen
yes,
music.
yeah, it is kind of Zen music. Yeah. And so out of the back room comes this very comparatively speaking jaunty hi-hat
Yeah.
snare driven drum beat. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, you're next room over. This is the sad room. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Uh, but oddly, it starts to fit in, and things start to like orbit around its gravitational pull, and everything kind of makes sense. And it's Tim Smith, right? The vocalist for yeah, especially in this. I knew he left later, but this is like the early version of them, right? So his vocals join the mix, and he questions why his bride's posture and hands look to be that of a woman of like an older age. And so that's kind of interesting. And it's left you to think, is this a physical ailment? Is this like an emotional malady? What's going on here? And I gotta say, his voice is so good for this style of music. Like, I don't know if I'd put him in an 80s hair metal band. I don't know if it would translate. I don't think it would. But in this, it'd be funny to hear. So if you're listening, Tim, give that a whirl. But it's so perfect for this folksy indie sound. And it's almost like untarnished sounding purity to his voice that just sounds great, and I love it. there's this very simple bass that really kinds of shines throughout the verses. And it adds this another layer of musical texture or sonic texture that you need, because as I experienced it, like the verses were far more stripped back. Like there wasn't a lot of guitar happening in there, if much at all. That would come later. So it adds this extra like depth to the song during this portion that even though it was super rudimentary and easy bass line, it does add the sound that you need and the depth that you need to that portion of the song for sure. And so we get the next verse that comes in. He's lamenting the lack of movement by his love interest, and he tries to convince her that taking up action can make the days seem shorter. Um, and it's at this point, and perhaps it's like it's kind of fucked up because the video is about to really underscore this as it's dawning on me. But this is about depression, right? Like the video is kind of hinting that this woman is just like sitting there in a chair, like glazed over looking. But yeah, it's fairly obvious that she's struggling and that he's concerned for her. So add this to the long list of songs that are about the person who cares standpoint, looking at someone who's kind of like dealing with depression and things like that. And it was a very, again, his lyrics and his words are really pretty, and you know, it was tastefully done the way he's addressing this kind of like touchy issue of depression, and I thought it was pretty tactfully done. So anyway, we move through this portion, and then he goes on to question why she isn't surrounding herself with those who she loves and care and who care about her. Valid question, and perhaps another sign of depression. And the second chorus like kicks in, and it's this time it's got slightly more gusto to it, and I think looking back at the song as if it were complete at this point, I think each one of the choruses grows a little bit sonically. So the first one's a little bit more bare bones, the second one kind of adds to that, and the third one really fills out. And as I recall, the way that Roscoe progressed, there were all these additives that they would inject into the song to give it fresh life and show this through another lens, or this added depth to it. And they're doing that again, particularly with these choruses. And that is making me fall in love with the song even more too, because they're not just cutting and pasting part B into part D. They're adding it, they're adding to it and making it different, so the experience each time is enriched and feels different and not so sameish. Love that. So when that second chorus kicks off, I instantly noticed this time this sort of jangly guitar chords that appear like almost instantly with the hit of the drum. And this section is so rhythm forward. Like everybody is playing their instrument in a rhythmic way. And there's just, because it's got this fuller sound, it's kind of like the song is opening up into this louder sort of, it's not, I use louder like under the understanding that, you know, this isn't, you know, they're not hitting the distortion pedal and fucking kicking off or anything. It's just filling out more, you know what I mean? And it sounds really good that they're sort of playing with the dynamics of what was this like bass and drum driven verse to this now everybody's a part of it chorus. And so this bit is lasts a bit short-lived, and those guitars cut out. And again, the violin from the beginning of the song reappears with that same woeful melody that meanders over top of the music. However, this time it is coupled with this almost fluttering like key or synth sound that is rather enchanting. And I think it's coming in this speaker when I was listening to it. And it almost kind of gives this, it almost kind of acts as the flickering light in the face of dark. I don't know what it is about this, but it's got a hopeful sound to it, whereas the rest of it, again, is that woeful sound. So there's something, I don't know, evocative about that sound that kind of helps paint a picture in front of you, or where it takes on a larger meaning than just its sound, right? It becomes a symbol of something, a lot like music would do during, like, you know, the Baroque period or something like that, where movements became actions in a story being told. This almost had that same sort of like damn near literary mechanism kind of thing going for it. There was also another part somewhere around this part of the song, and I can't remember what it was, and it was something coming through this can. And I think it preceded the fluttering bit. And what I think it was is, if you go back, maybe you know this, and if you don't, go back and give it a listen, but it sounded almost like that violin player was scratching on with the bow against the strings in like a little bit of a frictious way, not elongated notes or anything like that. And it was subtle, but you hear that, and it's just this, it's almost like percussive, the way it's adding a frictious kind of sound to it, almost like when a guitar does that thing, but a violin's version of it. And it was very cool. And again, this little added detail that wasn't there in the chorus before, but it was in this next chorus. Another example of them injecting these little sound bits to sort of take things to another level than they were in their last iteration. So yeah, loved that. The chorus then repeats, now fuller than ever, with added violin flourishes, but as it progresses, it begins to fade until finally there's silence. And all those aforementioned flourishes were awesome. Loved that. Almost like outbursts of pain, like you're dealing with your depression, like you're putting voice to it. And it's the agony of vocalizing the stuff that you've internalized for too long. It's almost like a breaking point or something like that. And I wonder if the fade there at the end is a mechanism or symbolism or suggestion of the depression subsiding, or perhaps a suggestion of something quite darker, like perhaps the subject has reached the end of their rope. And I don't know which it is, but I'm pretty sure it's one of them, or there's too much of this sort of music being used as a symbol for something going on in this song, at least for my interpretation, for this fade out not to carry more weight than just they didn't know how to end the fucking song. You know what I mean? So I would love to know what they were going for with that ending. And I found this song to be hauntingly beautiful in its own like lugubrious way. There is something poetic about the use of a violin, an instrument synonymous with and dependent on strings, being employed here to literally tug at your heartstrings. So I just think that that's a wonderful choice of instrument for this. I thought the vocals were impeccable, particularly for this brand of music. And that the finished product, though not as memorable as Roscoe, was still a treat to listen to, and one I'm surely going to listen to in the future. And so, where earlier you were saying legs and arms and all this, all these other appendages above Roscoe was these other songs, I'd say maybe, an index finger or something like that, because I really, really did like this a lot. So that's my experience.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great song. Yeah, just for my two penneth worth, I think the video, which that's the link I chose for you. It helps in a way, but not to get too hung up over it, because that's one person's interpretation of the song, not necessarily the band's. It'll be the person who put the video together, and you don't know how much input they had on that. I will say this: you're spot on with a lot of what you said, and again, there's no answer out there as to what this is all about. It's people's take on it, but that sort of I put in my notes that the beat sort of elbowing its way through. So it's almost like a freight train beat, and seemingly at odds with the music and the lyrics. And then I call it the dog nodding bass, and the layered vocals. But if you think of the dynamics as almost like mental activity, then it kind of works. This is my interpretation. So he's imploring to her, and that's where the choruses are getting louder and louder as he's trying to get through. If you imagine someone's almost shut off, almost catatonic, but not quite.
Yeah.
And some of the lyrics, I mean, it's very evocative. My young bride makes me think of this age difference, and a youngish girl with this older guy in a sort of, that snowy landscape. It would be a rural place, obviously, because that's what he sings about. It's almost not quite an arranged marriage, but an agreed marriage, probably to do with a bit of property and livestock and things like that.
Yeah, a marriage of comfort and not passion or love.
Exactly. Doesn't mean say he doesn't care about her, but it's not, two young flames coming together. So you've got that. And as I say, and you've got this icy landscape as well. And I almost see the fiddle, the violin as her mental activity. So it sort of dances over the top for a bit. And then as it fades, it's them talking to her, fading backwards away because she's just going back into herself again.
Yeah, she's disassociating from it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my ideas. But it's just beautiful. And as you say, like the full sound, the layered voices, these are all elements they use elsewhere in their music, and they're all great. And he is fantastic, really is, and a very accomplished writer as well. So just to get into it, as we said before, we have done 2 episodes regarding Midlake songs. So and that being Roscoe and Feast of Carrion. So I'll put them together as a playlist with this one. You can go back and check the others and more detail about the band. Very, very briefly, they were formed in Denton, Texas in 1999, as Prince would have you say. They've done 5 albums to date. Tim Smith, the main protagonist of the band, left while they're making the 4th album in 2013. So for this album and this track indeed, a lot of multi-instrumentalists on this. So Tim Smith, this is just listing what he did in the album, not necessarily this song, but Tim Smith vocals, piano, keyboard, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, flute. Eric Pulido, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, 12-string acoustic guitar, keyboards, backing vocals. Eric Nicholson, keyboards, piano, acoustic guitar, 12-string acoustic guitar, electric guitar. Paul Alexander, bass, double bass, electric guitar, keyboards, piano, bassoon. Lazy bastard couldn't learn to play an acoustic guitar. Kenzie Smith, drums and percussion, and for this song, Josh Ello, violin. All songs in the album written by Tim Smith. So there's some nice little.
Excellent job by Mr. Ello. I just wanted to say if that was his name.
Yeah, really nice. It's hello without the H, so I'm just going to say Ello. As in hello.
Hello.
Some really nice points made by a few blogs and websites. So I just sort of go into this because there's not much about the song itself, apart from some people's appreciations. Complex Distractions blog. This is quite interesting. They said Midlake's sound morphs into 1970s driving pop rock. This is the whole album, with hints of prog thrown in for good measure. The bass and drums become the heart of their sound, while Tim Smith locks into a world with his lyrics. It's a world that touches on people living in villages, horses, bandits, young brides, with sci-fi touches where the description paints visions of both the late 19th century and otherworldly alternative realities. He goes on to say, in 2013, I interviewed Tim Smith, and he basically said that he and the band couldn't agree on when a song was done. Smith stated that he didn't want to hold the band back, so he left. So that's an interesting point of view there. The Guardian wrote about the album. From the remote rock outpost of Denton, Texas, they look lovingly to Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles, but also to the darker genius of Peter Hamill, Van der Graaf generator. Prog excellence, apparently. They have clearly listened closely to Blue Nile's debut and Radiohead's OK Computer. I don't know if you remember before, he talked at length about how he loved Radiohead and etc. However, they bring it all together in a vision of their own. The songwriting is rich, delivering an almost hallucinatory mix of pianos, horns, guitars, and painfully wistful reminiscences. A really nice write-up, and again, quite spot on. Sputnik Music wrote, Occupantha's vocals, lovingly laid down by a master songwriter Tim Smith, are almost always double, triple, quadruple, or quintupled by backing tracks. The use of backing vocals is also very prominent, giving the vocals almost a wave-like effect, washing over the listener like a tsunami. Young Bride, the second single from the album, the lyrics are slightly confusing, and the musicianship is absolutely fantastic, with crunchy guitar, dancing bass lines, and strings of keyboards underneath fantastic drumming and the aforementioned violins. Though it's not Smith's best, Bride does also feature some intense falsetto to go along with that fiddle.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I didn't mention that, but
So
the layered vocals are
yeah,
fabulous there. And
yeah,
honestly, the bass work when it kicks into the chorus opens up a little bit more, and he kind of goes up on the neck, and you can kind of hear that. It's just another example
yeah,
of how the chorus opens more comparatively
yeah.
speaking to the verse, which is great.
So the album got a Metacritic score of 79, and interestingly, on the Metacritic website, you have the critic score, then you have the users, as in
Mhm.
Joe Public, which is
Yep.
8.6 out of 10, universal acclaim. So real favorite. And just that within Metacritic, you get these pithy one-liner reviews, all music. Midlake may be stuck in the 1970s, but they make it sound like the best place on earth. Which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah.
Shaking Through website said, while the trials of Van Occupantha may never be more than a cult favorite, those seeking to till peculiarly American musical soul will undoubtedly reap a rewarding and plentiful harvest. And Pace magazine said Van Occupantha feels like a contrarian response to so many bands copying from 1960s psych pop and 80s new wave while leaving out everything in between,
Between, yeah,
which is exactly the
yeah,
rich crowd it's gone for. Yeah, which is great. These are all great points, actually. It's very, very rare for critics to make
yeah.
valid points, but there you go. So the lyrics, My Young Bride, why are your shoulders like that? Of a tired old woman,
Mhm.
like a tired old woman. My young bride, why are your fingers like that? Of the hedge in winter, of the hedge in winter. Polonaise in winter. Snowshoes and hunters carried the goods in for you. My young bride, why aren't you moving at all? Helps to make the day seem shorter, helps to make the day seem shorter. My young bride, why aren't you keeping with you all the ones who really love you, all the ones who really love you? Polonaise in winter, snowshoes and hunters carried the goods in for you. Darkness and forests grant you the longest face made for porridge and stew. And then there's the violin break. Polonaise in winter, snowshoes and hunters carried the goods in for you. Darkness and forests grant you the longest face made for porridge and stew. And then it starts to fade out. Polonaise in winter, snowshoes and hunters carried the goods in for you. Darkness and forests grant you the longest. Yeah. So just a couple of notes. Polonaise is a Polish dance.
Mm.
Its name is French for Polish, as in the feminine adjective meaning Polish woman or girl. Obviously, someone who came from County Mayo in Ireland would be known as a mayonnaise. And the original Polish name of the dance is, sorry about this, Chodzony, meaning the walking dance. The Polonaise is very popular and still danced in Poland today. It is the opening dance in all major official balls and events, at New Year's balls and on national days. The Polonaise is always the first dance at the, take a read up at this, Staniowaka, which is a student ball. So I'm really sorry, that's a murder
I
that.
thought you swallowed your
Um,
tongue.
the Polish equivalent of the senior prom. In 2023, the dance was included in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List, being recognized as a form of joint celebration which commemorates important moments in family and community life and symbolizes cooperation, reconciliation, and equality.
Mm.
There you go, the Polonaise.
That's in a nutshell.
I got some, I got some research in there, and by God, I was going to use it.
I gotta say, his lyrical approach, the way he writes his words, evoke such images of like natural settings. Like, and I don't just say that because of the allusions to snowshoes and things like that. In this, it existed
Yeah.
in Roscoe too. Like you would evoke these times and places and these often wooded, natural, organic type places. And again, he does it here. And I remember thinking of like when that chorus opens up, like a fox running through a snowdrift or something, like and emerging through the other side. It was just he's really talented in that regard.
Yes, I don't know, it'd be others, but for me, the first sort of name that comes to mind when reading the lyrics is like Browning. You know, it's very
Mm.
similar in that
Yes.
poetry of that
Yes.
natural elements. Top stuff, really top stuff. Yeah, well, yes, this was a great suggestion. Logan 4 times 6. Thanks so much. Yeah, we both really enjoyed it. Hearing it again. It's another great track for Midlake. I'll wrap things up.
Okay.
Thanks so much for listening to this, Andy. Folks out there, tell us what you think of this track, of Midlake, of this album, etc., etc. We'd love to hear from you. If you like this, please do slap your meaty paws on the like button and let us know. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And who knows, one day one of your tracks could be on a special Friday. If you just pop suggestions in any of the episodes, we do try to keep track of them all. We have that long list which we're going down, and we will get to yours by the year 2526, and that's a guarantee. But yeah, that being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.